Discussion session. Chair Martin will join us today, virtual, and so will Commissioner Woodbury. But we welcome all of you here today. We have several presentations. We have Greater Winston-Salem with Ellis Kiefer, Planning and Development Services, Chris Murphy, City County Utilities, Courtney Driver, Forsyth Tech Community College, Dr. Spriggs, welcome, and Partners Health Management, Jackie Copeland, good morning, Experience in Self-Reliance, Fred Bazemore, and Melinda Hash. Good morning to all of you. Thank you for being here. And I will turn this over to Dudley Watts.
All right. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. And I don't know that I have a whole lot to add. We've, put together the presentations, and so if you want to, you can just kick off, and everybody's ready to go, I believe. So.
Okay, well, we'll start with Greater Winston-Salem this morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Great to see you. Ashley just taught me how to drive this, so we'll see if I can do it.
Is the mic working, guys? Test.
Y'all hear me through the mic? I don't think so.
I don't think it is either. Check and see. There we go.
Now it should be. Is that better?
That's better. Thank you.
Great. Are you all seeing my screen? Wonderful.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for your time and for having us here today. My goal for today is to just briefly overview what we saw at the end of last year, how we wrapped up the year. Then I'll cover some trends in those final projects of the year, and specifically what they're needing from a site perspective, and lastly, how we can continue to partner together. Just as a refresher, Greater Winston-Salem Inc.'s 2030 vision is to be the top mid-sized city in the Southeast for economic growth, to continue to be the best place to raise a family, and to be a more equitable community. Yes. Oh. Just on this. Oh, that might. Let's see if we slideshow again. Oh, there we go.
There we go.
Perfect, thank you. Now you can see my screen. And 2023 certainly accelerated our work towards achieving those goals. We are grateful to announce over 400 new jobs and $181 million in new capital investment. You all are very familiar with these projects. We're tremendously grateful for your support and leadership in securing these wins. On the entrepreneurship and retention fronts, we exceeded the $2 million mark in investment through the Winston-Salem Partners Roundtable Fund to support Winston-based startups. We also had over 80 existing employer touchpoints to make sure that the companies that are here in Forsyth County have the tools they need to continue to thrive. This is a snapshot of our current project pipeline. So right now we're working about 70 total projects, which represents potential capital investment of $12.2 billion and a potential number of jobs at 18,000. So tremendous scale to our pipeline. 73 new projects were received and requests fielded in 2023. It was a lot of work, but we're grateful to have that level of activity. And lastly, we had 19 companies actually visit in market last year. Now I want to cover briefly a few trends that will hopefully frame some of those numbers for you. First is the size of projects we've received. I think I might have changed this number a little too late, but our average project size in terms of capital investment has increased 11-fold since 2020. So in 2020, the average project was about $37 million. Last year, it was $336 million. This is driven up by a couple really heavy hitter projects that are $1 billion, $2 billion potential investment. But this speaks to not only the quality of the projects that we're receiving, but also the potential return on our investment in committing to working these projects. And then in terms of industry sector, for new projects, far and away, the largest industry sector last year was advanced manufacturing at 81%, which was even higher than what we saw at the start of last year. Again, this is kind of true across the state, across the country, but also we're getting these looks because of our legacy manufacturing workforce here in Forsyth County and because we still have a few high-quality sites that meet the needs of these projects. To give you a sense of the flow of projects, our average quarterly project intake has increased threefold since 2020. You can see a slight dip there from 2022 to 2023. That is consistent with what the state saw as well. And we're expecting a little bit of a dip this year too, just because it's an election year and we typically see a little bit of a slowdown in decision-making around elections. And the last statistic that I found interesting was 43% of our visits in 2023 were from international clients. It is no secret that North Carolina is a great place to do business, nor is it a secret that Forsyth County is a wonderful place to do business. Now to touch on specifically the needs of those projects, what they're asking us for when they reach out. We saw a shift in the second half of last year of companies preferring existing buildings. So at the beginning of the year, more companies needed an existing building. Towards the end of the year, they were more open to building out their own facility. This is because companies have a little more flexibility in their timeline than they did. Some of these are really specialized projects that require a unique build out, but also our inventory is low for existing buildings. That's true across the country, so companies have adapted. Another trend was a decrease in our preference for rail access on site. This is great news to us because we had 3 rail serve sites. We're down to 2 because one of those in Whitaker Park recently leased. So that's helpful to our work. And then in terms of preference of purchase versus lease, there was a huge shift from the beginning of last year to the end of last year, meaning companies are significantly more open to leasing. Again, this is driven by inventory. Lots of developer-owned sites are available, and that's what they offer. But also, it gives companies more flexibility. They don't risk that initial capital outlay, and that has become more preferable. And then to give you a sense of the size of sites that the companies have been requesting, you can see this chart might be small on your screen, but there's a pretty even split in acreage requests from 0 to 200 acres. But what I want to point out here is you can see from 100 to 200 acres is about 40% of our overall requests. And we have very few sites in that sliver of project inquiry. So right now we're in a great position because the state is aware that we have a few really great sites that meet these needs, but we only have a few. And then shifting over to building requests, most of our projects in the second half of last year needed over 300,000 square feet, really large footprint projects, and this is an increase from what we saw at the beginning of last year. Shifting gears from 2023 to 2024, we're continuing our threefold approach to economic development: retention, recruitment, and entrepreneurship. So on the retention front, we worked closely with Kyle and Andrea to make sure that we have planned strategic outreach to, our goal is over 100 of our top employers in the county. On the recruitment front, we're going to continue to push to drive jobs and capital investment. I think that the reason that we receive so many looks, our current pipeline represents about a third of the state's overall pipeline, is not only because we have great product to offer, but because the state trusts us with their clients. So continuing to build those relationships so that we continue to have heavy project flow. And lastly, pushing on the entrepreneurship front. We have a couple projects in the works to continue to align the work of our really vast entrepreneurial ecosystem, and then again, continuing to commit on an investment level to local startups and hopefully pushing more towards recruiting startups. But what undergirds all of these efforts are available product. So product development is another area of focus for us, working closely with you all, working with planning, working with utilities to make sure we have the product available for these companies that are either growing or looking to move here. The last thing I want to show you, sorry, a few more charts and then we're done. Our existing inventory, both for buildings and for sites. So for buildings, this gives you a glimpse of what we have available for industrial buildings. That top row shows total available industrial in each of those size segments. So from 30 to 80,000 square feet, we have 8 buildings on up for a total of 19 available industrial buildings. When you bump down to that next row, that increases the requirements to having a ceiling height above 24 feet, which is a common requirement we see, but most of our older industrial buildings don't have that. So that reduces our inventory down to about 11 available buildings. And then for the companies that are looking for a speculative build or new construction, that cuts our inventory down to 4. And you can see for buildings over 180,000 square feet, we really only have 1. That's in Piedmont Commerce Center. We've seen a lot of looks there, but that will inevitably lease. And you saw that we had a huge number of requests above that square footage threshold. And then on the site front, total available industrial sites, we have 12 right now, but with accessible utilities, that cuts the number down to 9. And then for what many of our projects request, a shovel-ready site, we really only have about 3 that have utilities easily accessible and all of their due diligence completed, so these projects can move quickly. Tanglewood Business Park is certainly in that mix. We're working right now to secure due diligence so that site can be more shovel-ready than it currently is, and appreciate your partnership in that. So how can we continue to partner together? First, continuing to share any industry insights that you all learn as we work together to make sure that companies have the tools they need to grow. The next is, as you know, we're so grateful for your project support, the wins we had last year, and hoping to continue that this coming year, hopefully bringing you a few more things in the coming months. And lastly, any ways that we can work together to continue to prepare these shovel-ready sites, because projects want to move quickly, and the volume of projects has really not slowed down. So thank you so much. Are there any questions that I can answer?
Are there questions? Commissioner Bessie?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just in terms of the total data set, you're talking about available sites, available buildings within the boundaries of Forsyth County, whether inside or outside municipal boundaries?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And I may have missed this, but did you give any indication of whether which sites were within sort of designated industrial parks and which sites are elsewhere but, available?
I did not. That's a great question. The majority of these are in industrial parks, but we have a few one-off buildings available as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions?
Yes, I do. So for me, I've not always been a fan of the capital investments. However, I've learned in the by and by how good they are for the community. One of the things I would like to see is showing the community, I guess, the outcomes in terms of the benefits that we get providing those capital investments from the county to those organizations. So, for example, I think it was Purple Crow.
Purple Crow, yes.
Yeah, Purple Crow. Just kind of enlightening the community in terms of what that is.
Right.
And the benefits that we get from the county.
Yes.
It's not all a total investment. So you understand that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So you're saying not only the jobs that it's bringing, but also how the
Yes.
capital
I don't
affects
think
the
that
community.
our constituency understands that. And when you're presenting, possibly in the future, you can share
Right.
what those things bring to the
Absolutely.
county.
Happy to.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah, they actually, so those companies do reporting back against the incentives that you provided, and so we have that data. Typically, Kyle's done that once a year, around September, October, but we can certainly provide that, more frequently.
Yeah, I was just thinking, like, maybe Ed could just highlight in terms of, what that looks like.
So a little more communication on
Yes.
those to the general public. Okay.
Yeah.
So Hassani.
Okay.
That's a great
Thank
question.
you. I
Thank you.
appreciate you.
Other questions?
A general question about site size. One of the problems we have is we have a lot of population, but we have relatively small, we're very small in terms of comparative land area with other counties. Is there any logic to particularly aggressively pursuing the sites that are below 50 acres, for example? And if so, is there a strategy for doing that?
Absolutely. And it depends on the industry sector that we're trying to target. Fortunately, food and beverage is one of our strongest sectors and a sector that we've actually recently received an accolade. And I'm not sure if you all saw, we were named one of the top 10 food and beverage locations in the country. And those projects, while they might have heavier utility needs, sometimes need lower square footage, so that can be really helpful to us. There's certainly strategy in how we approach that, but as you can see from that pie chart, we do have a good number of requests that need less than 25 acres. So we can certainly find a way to meet those needs. We're not planning to win all of those huge 100-plus acre projects, but that's a great question. How do we be strategic in moving forward and making sure we have sites for each type of project?
Thank you.
Other questions? Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Planning and Development Services, Chris Murphy. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Madam Vice Chair, members of the County Commissioners. It's always good to be before you, giving this quarterly update. It's especially good whenever a lot of the partners that we work with frequently are here, and we can kind of piggyback upon one another as far as some of the good things that we're doing and some of the things that we're looking forward to. First thing I want to go over is, I did mention this last month, but this should, last time I gave the quarterly update, but this should be coming to you later this spring, is a text amendment, UDO CC 25, which deals with several of the RM district standards. There have been several instances that both the commissioners and the city council have had rezoning cases where petitioners had to request what I'll call a district larger than what they needed based on their density because of some of the provisions we had in our ordinance. An example of that is in the RM5 district, which is the most comparable to the RS9, we have had a lot of projects recently that have actually met that RM5 density, but there was a limitation in the ordinance that said you couldn't have more than 4 attached townhomes. And because of topographic issues and other things, they needed to have more attached products. So in order to get around that, they would request RM8. So we're going through, we're looking at those standards, and we're adjusting those accordingly. Similarly, folks have had to request RM18 whenever they were perhaps a RM12 or RM15 density because of the increased height. So what we're trying to do is kind of tweak those standards so that they can request the most appropriate district based on their density and not have to over ask. So again, that's going to, it's already been to planning board, recommended for approval. It's going to council committee next week, and we would anticipate that going to the city council in February and then coming to the commissioners after that. So again, something we've been working on and I think will be a benefit to the development community and, and to the general public by not having over intense zoning districts in their area. Two of the main focuses of my presentation today will be kind of where we are on the new comprehensive plan. Yeah, there you go. Sorry, thank you. Would be where we are on the new comprehensive plan forward 2045. We continue to work on that. We had 11 in-person meetings over the fall. And we're analyzing that data from the surveys that have been open for about 6 months, as well as the data we received from the in-person meetings. And I have some more detail later, but that's over 160,000 different data points that we received, both from the survey and from the in-person exercises that were handled. Our next steps there are we're going to start having some other neighborhood meetings, community meetings focused on the growth management and other big picture land use considerations. As far as economic development, you've already heard from Ellis. We continue our collaboration with planning, Greater Winston-Salem Inc., utilities, the respective city and county economic development departments. And again, I would challenge, I would be hard-pressed to think that there's anyone that has a better group of folks working together than we do here locally on key economic development issues. And one of the things I know that we're going to talk about today will be the $20 million that the county received for sewer expansion in southeastern Forsyth County, and we continue to collaborate on those discussions as well. As far as the southeast Forsyth County sewer study area, we do have the southeast Forsyth County area plan update, which was adopted in the mid-2010s. And there are a number of areas that were recommended for industrial development if sewer becomes available. And that's kind of the area that we're focusing on. And as we move on with the presentations today, we'll actually hear from utilities and some of the work that they've been doing both with us and with their consultants, and have some cost estimates that, again, very rough, but again, being able to look at where we can provide some of those sites that Ellis just talked about that we need to be able to attract key economic development projects. So, that's an ongoing focus of our work. And obviously with the Forward 2045, that kind of plays into that because, again, we already have southeastern Forsyth County identified as a growth area, but where else are we going to look to grow around the county? And that's part of that growth management concept where we're trying to accommodate future development, but also accommodate rural preservation and residential growth. And again, all three of those things, as Commissioner Bessie alluded to, we are a fast growing and populated county, but we're one of the smaller counties in the state. So we have to be smart and intentional in how we grow. As far as Forward 2045, I kind of keep this slide here. We've already, basically the bubble on the top right, we've already completed all of those items. As far as the formal public outreach, we did the first part of that, which was doing the vision and goals in person via in-person meetings and our survey. In the spring of 2024, we're going to have the land use concepts and growth management in-person meetings that we will be working on. Our staff is already working on some of the larger goals as far as writing up some of that work. And then again, we will, all that will come out to the public for input, their review, et cetera, as we move through the process, but looking to have a fall of 2024 adoption of the comp plan. This is just the kind of the highlight of like what we've been doing, the number of survey participants we had, and I said 160, it's 116. Got my numbers wrong. Individual data points, but again, we have had a lot of participation in this plan, much more than we actually had in Legacy. Those are where the public meetings were held and when they were held, and again, we anticipate the next round of public meetings on the growth management and land use concepts being in March of 2024. I do want to call your attention to the 2023 adoption of the downtown plan. We don't bring this to the commissioners for adoption as it is obviously within downtown Winston-Salem, but it is another key consideration of what we do work on. And that was taken to the city council back in the fall. The downtown plan before the recent adoption was most recently revisited in 2013. Similar to that current plan, the 2023 plan covers a 10-year time frame. And we partnered with the Downtown Winston-Salem Partnership. They actually led the plan, but we provided assistance to them. Had some subcommittees, again, talking about public outreach and the things that were done. This is kind of what the vision of the plan is. As a city of arts and innovation, Winston-Salem is focused on creating and maintaining a vibrant, inclusive, and engaging downtown. This plan embraces creativity, equity, and the pursuit of excellence through a unique downtown environment alive with opportunity. These are the boundaries and the districts of the plan. You have some changes. You have Industry Hill, which wasn't recognized. It was in its infancy probably when the 2013 plan was done, but of course that is now recognized on this. And again, you have some other areas that have kind of been tweaked, but the actual boundary of downtown core has not changed. The strategic framework of the plan is based on topic areas of the 3 subcommittees that the Town Winston-Salem Partnership had, looking at growth, connectivity, and appearance. And those are the goals and recommendations basically set forth will help achieve the downtown become the place that this plan envisions, a walkable, safe, and connected community that welcomes a diverse group of workers, visitors, and residents. So again, it's trying to network the edges of downtown into downtown and how we have those transitions. As far as growth, we want to continue to promote small business, focus on housing affordability and variety, utilize vacant office and courthouse space, fill ground floor vacant spaces and add storefront variety, continue to grow the food scene and support new and existing festivals and events. As far as connectivity, I don't have to go through all these, but basically looking at improving parking, safety, lighting, how do we have pedestrian connectivity, how do we enhance our existing parks, et cetera. As far as appearance, continue to leverage our outstanding legacy of our architecture in the downtown, continue to refine our design standards, upgrade sidewalk dining, continue to add public art, look at trees, landscaping, how we brand our districts, et cetera. As far as the land use recommendation, this plan basically looks at, you have kind of mixed-use commercial for the majority of the area within the boundaries of the downtown, but you do have a pocket of single-family and attached residential, and that's a little pocket over there identified in kind of the Holly Avenue area there in the southwest area of downtown. The downtown plan update, as far as the actions, the partnership unanimously approved the plan in September. City County Planning Board held a public hearing back in October and unanimously recommended approval of the plan. The plan was presented to council committees in November, and then the City Council held a public hearing and adopted the plan in December of 2023. Transitioning from the downtown plan to just some general staffing and work volume updates. As far as the permit office, and across our whole department right now, we only have 3 vacancies, which makes us somewhat unique within the city. I think that is about 95% staffed if you look at our overall staff of 68 folks. So we have 1 vacancy in the permit office. The timeliness of our reviews has improved as we have staffed up. We had about a 2-year period of time where we had a lot of vacancies, and so those continue to improve. We continue to have a high call volume, but we are trying to work with that. We actually have been meeting with both our mechanical, electrical, and plumbing contractors to make sure that they understand how they can schedule inspections and check the status of inspections via our online portal, and then also an app, and also talking to contractors about building contractors about how they can apply and again do the same thing. So we've been meeting with those folks to help them try to understand how they can do that. In calendar year 2023, we issued over 21,500 permits, and those are run the gamut of building, electrical, mechanical, plumbing, but again, very, very busy. As far as the planning division, again, 1 vacancy, down from 5 about 6 months ago. We handled 54 rezonings, 34 subdivisions, and 4 final development plans. We had a lot of major subdivision plats, even more minor subdivision plats. We brought forth 4 UDO text amendments, did a number of certificates of appropriateness as far as our historic resources staff. There were 5 voluntary annexation petitions that we processed, and there were 9 public art installations that our staff guided throughout the city and county. As far as inspections, again, only 1 vacancy, and that was due to retirement at the end of last year, so we are in the process of advertising that. All of our field inspections are within acceptable range, and we actually conducted over 72,000 inspections last year for building, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, which is a high work volume. These are just some development-related trends. I always try to bring these forward when I give my quarterly update, but you see that we do have, we've actually in the year 2023 issued more single-family permits than we have in the last 5 years. Multifamily was slightly down from where it has been in years past, but the total of single-family and multifamily constructed permit value is the highest it's been over that 5-year period, except for 2021, where we had a large number of multifamily developments. This is just looking at the non-residential construction permit values. If you see, we are fairly consistent with where we were in 2022, which was we are over 161 million, and that is the largest amount over that 5-year period as far as constructed value. Looking at third quarter, these are third quarter numbers. I'm sorry, comparing quarter to quarter. Looking at third quarter, this is just a breakdown of where we were as far as the permit types and total value that we issued in the third quarter of 2023. And these are the new permitted residential units, again, total units in that quarter. And this is just the map that shows where those permits were permitted around the county. The 10 largest are indicated with the numbers, but generally speaking, again, a wide range of permits throughout the city and county. And with that, I'm glad to answer any questions.
Chris, could I ask you about the downtown plan? When you all were working on that, did you involve tourism?
I can't answer that because I did not myself participate in this. Both Kirk Erickson, who's the deputy director, and Amy Crum, who's the assistant planning director, did. I can't answer that definitively, but I can certainly get you an answer.
Well, I was just wondering because periodically tourism does surveys of our visitors on likes and dislikes, and that would have been very helpful.
I'm going to make an assumption that they did. Again, it was a wide range of folks that participated. I would think that if they weren't actively on one of the committees or subcommittees, I'm sure that they spoke to them and got input. But I'll confirm that and get back with you.
Okay.
And I was on the steering, I actually served on one of the oversight and steering committees for it, and and they were it was a big, wide group of folks and very deliberate, almost.
Too deliberate?
Yeah, they just spent a lot of energy on it, and I do remember some of the tourism folks. I know there was some transition in leadership during that period because it went over a fairly long period of time, but yeah, there was great enthusiasm around all that. So, yeah.
Are there other questions? Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Okay, we will now have the city-county utilities. Courtney Driver.
You figured it out. Stop sharing and then I'll share it again. Did I? No, you're good. I got it, okay. And now I just got to figure out which one's mine. And, okay, good morning, commissioners. Giving you just a couple of updates on utility projects. We have a lot going on right now. Tanglewood Business Park Sewer Extension, we've partnered with the county to do a study and look at how to best serve the Tanglewood Business Park and Southwest Forsyth Little League. That study just came back with an estimated cost of $2.7 million. The utility would contribute around $250,000 per our oversized main policy. So basically, if we see a need to oversize the line to serve the, a larger basin, we will contribute towards oversizing that line versus what is needed just to serve either the park or the Little League facility. The next steps for this project would be to do an interlocal agreement between the utility and Forsyth County, and then of course, we need to put out an RFQ, a request for qualification, select an engineering firm that would start the design and the design on the proposed sewer outfall. And I have a map here that kind of shows what we've looked at so far, and I'll see if my cursor works. But right here is the new Idols Road pump station, and you can see Idols Road over here to your left. We stubbed out in the Idols Road Pump Station project a 30-inch sewer line, so you can barely see it, but it's this green kind of line right in here. So we would stub out an 8-inch, this project included an 8-inch extension to serve the business park, as well as a 12-inch extension. That would be the oversized part that the utility would contribute towards instead of going 8-inch. So a 12-inch up to a point, and then do 8-inch to serve the Little League ball fields. Highway 65 water line extension. This is one that I've been updating you on for a while now. This is the map showing the project limits. I presented an update, I guess it was last October, and we're pretty much still on track. The only thing that's different from when I presented in October is that the construction drawings, we had expected to get those before the holiday, but we are expecting those this week. I have, we've communicated to our consultants that this is a priority, and they're working on a few projects for us, and I have indicated to them that this needs to be the #1 priority. So, but overall, the project schedule has not slipped, so we still plan to advertise in the spring of this year. We'll be starting land acquisition fairly soon, so.
Thank you.
Tanglewood Force Main relocation. This is the map that shows the project limits. And I'll just update you on the need for the project. The existing sewer force main that's leaving the Tanglewood lift station is deteriorated and needs to be replaced. We evaluated several different alternatives on where to replace that line, you know, in the same alignment that it was or in a different location. And we've nailed down that. The field survey is 95% complete. This is a little different from my last update. We had to go back out and do additional surveying because we realized that part of the proposed alignment was going through some wetlands, and so we wanted to avoid those wetlands, and so we had to go back out and do some additional work. But the 90% construction drawings are expected in February of this year. Again, we'll be starting easement acquisition for that project very soon and advertise for the project in the summer of this year. Obviously, the acquisition of easements would include Tanglewood Park, and so we'll be back to you to get those, to get approval for those easements. Private versus public lift station policy. This is a policy that we've also been working on for a year or so. And this is from where you have developers that come in and they want to build a new subdivision, and they need a lift station to serve their subdivisions. And so in the past, the developments would put in private lift stations, and then of course the maintenance and operations of that lift station falls on the homeowners after the developers are finished with their project. And so the discussion came up, well, should we require those lift stations to become public and for the public utility to maintain and own and operate? So we've benchmarked other utilities. We've drafted a policy for review by stakeholders. We actually evaluated the cost difference to build to our standards versus the minimum state standards. We've got that evaluation and that report back. And that's really hard to really evaluate, because even though some of the upfront costs may be more initially, the lifespan costs are less by doing some of the upgrades that we request up front. But anyway, next steps would be to schedule a meeting with Dudley and his team to finalize the policy and present it back to the board for the support and approval. And the last topic I wanted to discuss today was mentioned earlier is the new Southeast Forsyth lift station. So the county received $20 million from the state budget to expand water and wastewater service in southeastern Forsyth County. The utility has been working with the county and city-county planning and Greater Winston-Salem Inc. to identify areas for expansion that provide the most benefit to the community. And there's 2 preliminary areas that have been identified, and each area has 2 options, so I'm going to go through those. And this is really, one of these options is really hot off the press. I just got the report back earlier this week, so I'm sharing this to you, and we're still evaluating and analyzing what we received. So one option is on Wahlberg Road, and we've talked about this one before. This line right here is Wahlberg Road. Union Cross Business Park is to your left. So this is the entire basin. So option one would be to put a new lift station in kind of halfway through that basin, serve half of the basin. And it would include a new pump station, sewer gravity, lines, and a force main. And I'll get to the cost summary table in a couple of slides. Option two for this area would just go ahead and take it down to the bottom of that basin, really to the county line, the Forsyth-Davidson County line. Again, new pump station, new gravity sewer mains, and a force main. Another area that's been identified is, let's see if I can, so right here we have an existing pump station on Watkins Ford Road. It's this green dot here. And so one option would be to put in or relocate that station down lower in the basin to a point off High Point Road. Again, that new pump station, sewer lines, force main would all be included in that project. The second alternative to this area would be, instead of replacing that existing pump station, just build a new one that would then pump back up to the existing one. And we already have a future capital project that has been identified in our master plan to increase capacity at that existing station, so the one off Watkins Ford. We know that we're going to have to upsize it for additional capacity in the basin. So if we included this lower area, we would just increase it that much more to handle that flow. So the cost table here. So Wahlberg Road, the first alternative, so that smaller lift station, to include the lift station, the gravity sewer, and the force main. There's an estimated cost of right over $11 million. Alternative two, so if you take it down lower in the basin, of course you're picking up more land. That estimated cost is $20.5 million. And then for the second area, the two costs, so if we relocate the existing lift station and move it downstream, you're looking at $81.3 million, so it's fairly expensive to do that. If we build a new lift station and then pump back up to that lift, the existing Abbott's Creek lift station, these numbers are a little misleading. I'll explain that, but it's around $5 million. The project that I said we already have identified to increase capacity at the Abbott's Creek lift station is $40 million. So that's one reason why that 81 is so expensive. We're already going to put in significant dollars to increase the existing station. But this alternative two, if you notice here, and this is, I'm trying not to get into the weeds too much, but 90 gallon per minute station is a very small lift station. So if we wanted to build out that area, the cost would be more than $5 million because we'd have to build a larger station. Our consultant sized this based off TAS data, so traffic analysis zones. And so right now, that area is only projected to see an additional 300 homes in the next 20 years. But obviously, if we put sewer there, then that would change. So I've spoke to Chris, and we would really need to refine those numbers and decide and determine what size lift station we would need in that area, but I'm pretty confident that it would be bigger than what's proposed here. So that cost would go up. Another thing that's not included in that alternative two cost is the gravity sewer that would need to be added to serve that basin. Kyle and I have talked, as well as Chris and folks from Greater Winston-Salem, Inc., and our recommendation, or what we think we should pursue, is alternative one for the Wahlberg Road site, and then alternative two for Abbott's Creek. And so maybe go ahead and build the lift station there for Abbott's Creek. Probably would need to request for additional funding at some point to make sure we can build that gravity line in to serve that basin. So I'll have Kyle come up, and I'm open for any questions, or if Kyle wants to add anything to kind of where we think we are with serving that area and using those funds that the county received.
It might help to go back to the map to what you're actually recommending to.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's perfect. So using some of the funds to build this kind of station, alternative one in Wahlberg Road, and then which is right, $11.5 million, something like that. And then this option here, which would be to serve Abbott's Creek, we would build a new station downstream of our existing station and size it appropriately for the land use that we project, would happen. Go ahead and build the force main in, but we would probably need additional funds to build in the gravity sewer that would be needed to connect new development.
And I guess that really depends on how, I mean, if you build a lift station, folks are going to bring you projects. Obviously, if the project is closer to the lift station, the cost for that gravity sewer, there could be some developer-funded improvements depending upon how it comes to you.
Right.
I guess is the question.
Is that the area that the Kernersville Council approved a big development this week?
Is it the Caleb's Creek? Is that what you're, so that is in this, it's not in this yellow area, it's up higher. So it's already in this Abbott's Creek basin.
Okay.
Which is one of the reasons why we're gonna need to upsize that station in the future.
Talk a little bit about High Point. On this map, you can see that the county line is actually, there's areas in to kind of that bottom right corner that are actually served by the city of High Point. Talk a little bit about that, and maybe what some of the conversations were.
You want to talk about that?
Good morning, Commissioners. Yeah, so we did have some discussions with High Point. As you know, a portion of High Point's municipal boundaries comes into Forsyth County, really southeast of this shaded area here. They already have some sewered area over there. So we reached out to them just to make sure that we understood what their plans were for system growth. 66 right here is really kind of the edge of what the shaded area is. That is a ridge line. And so their indication at this point is they are not planning to cross that ridge line. They would have to build a lift station. And I spoke with the director of their public works department, and they said they were not interested at this time in building a public lift station or a lift station to sewer that area. So they did not have any intention of doing that at this point.
Okay, are there questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes. Commissioner Bessie's going to ask a question, and then we'll come back to you. Is that okay?
Okay. Yes.
Thanks. Both Abbott's Creek Alternative 1 and 2 anticipate putting in infrastructure that will facilitate, that will sewer, essentially, the shaded area. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
That we're not really, in comparing the alternatives, we're not talking about whether it's a good idea. We're talking about what's the most efficient way to provide it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's right, yes.
Chair Martin?
Could you go back to the Wahlberg 1 and 2 picture? Yeah, we have this, we just heard earlier from Chris, kind of the need to have, well, we heard earlier actually from our economic development part that we really need new buildings. I mean, we have very little inventory. By doing this first part, you're able to get that sooner, which is a good thing. It's a bad thing from a long-term feasibility. Going down to alternative 2 would take care of all that other part. But it occurred to me the same thinking in the Wahlberg 1 and 2 is kind of the same thinking in the Abbott's Creek 1 and 2. You could have a smaller, in the future, you could have a smaller lift station down in the Wahlberg number 2 that could join in with the first one. And I think that it's slower for the long-term future, but it clearly allows us, I think, to get to sooner. We're able to have some buildings, because I think there's already been some land purchasing around there, or at least identified conversations that can move those projects along more quickly. And I think getting the price, I mean, hopefully, I think as Courtney suggests, the $20 million would almost cover the Wahlberg 1 and Abbotts Creek 2, depending on what that final, I guess, sizing part of the Abbotts Creek 2 would be, and which makes sense. And so I think that is an excellent recommendation. And perhaps the one question I have for Courtney is back on Abbotts Creek 1, which also ties into Commissioner Bessie's question. It seems like in the alternative one, that 80 million, you're including an additional about 40 million you said already planned for capacity. I assume that is actually taking care of land to the north of the Abbotts Creek of 1 up there in the white area where we talked about Caleb's Creek expansion. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. That is correct.
So basically, the Utilities Commission is planning on some enhancements to Abbotts Creek 1 already at the tune of about 40 million. Does that sound correct?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, good. Which makes sense. So then the idea of tying into that shaded area for the Abbotts Creek 2 and sort of sizing that based on the guesstimate of residential / perhaps commercial industrial is the variable. And what do you think? What do you think a time frame is for making some guesstimates to come up with that? I just kind of, before embarking on this, we'd like to have some idea. Are we going to be short 2 or 3 million, or are we going to be short 10 million? And that could impact the kind of request that we might have, perhaps to the legislature, to make sure we finish both pieces, for example.
So I think we could probably refine that and get a little bit better cost estimates within like 2 months, 2 to 3 months. It's really just a matter of sitting down with the county and planning and determining how we want to see that develop. So, and so you just have to calculate how many acres you want to see it commercial, how many you want to see it residential, and then you put in some flow projections based on that.
Yeah, or think of a worst case here, because once it's announced sewer's going there, we can't control who buys what and when.
Right.
I mean, of course that'll go slow, and there'll be zoning changes required. So there are a lot of issues there. But anyway, I think it's really helpful work, and I think getting the sooner we kind of get it, we got a good commitment on the 20 million, and particularly that Wahlberg 1, the sooner we get on it, the better. I mean, obviously, as building sewer extensions, slow process. So the sooner we get on that, the better, to improve our likelihood of being able to have a spec building available at the time it's finished would be great.
Yes.
Further questions? Yeah.
Yes, but
Okay.
on another item, back to early in your presentation, the work being projected in and around the Idols Road Industrial Park.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime something happens, anytime there's anything cleared, or anything that looks like development in that area, I start getting questions about it. Have we spread the joy of answering the questions by offering the Village of Clemens board a briefing on what's going on?
So this is really new, so we have not had an opportunity to do that, but I think that's an excellent point, and we definitely should sit down with them and well, maybe you have, I don't know.
Yeah, I met with the village manager and assistant village manager the other week and let them know that we were talking about this, that we had the design for this going on. I think this still recognizes what we've talked about before. This brings sewer access to the property, but does not develop the sewer within the property, because, we have not gotten clear direction from the board exactly how we want to develop that yet. I think back in the fall, we had some discussions around whether or not we leave the parcel kind of wooded still, or if we grade, and I think we may have some opportunities to bring that to the board in the future, but this just allows the sewer to get to that property when we make the decision on how how to develop it.
It also, Commissioner Bessie, it honors a commitment we made in the development of this with West Forsyth Little League a long time ago. We made a commitment to connect them into sewer. They have some pretty awful septic issues at that facility, and so there was a little bit of a land transfer that we needed kind of at the entrance off Dillon, that comes through at Dillon Industrial Park. They've been patient with us. We were fortunate enough to get the $2.4 million to do it. And so what this project will do is it'll create I'm going to go way outside what I think I know, but the goal of this project was to connect West Forsyth Little League and to create a gravity lateral on the bottom at the low part of the property, so that as opportunities are to come to us, you'll have a way to connect in those customers. Is that right? Sort of.
You saying additional customers down here?
Well, we know that there's going to need to be gravity lines inside the park.
Yes.
You got to collect that
Yes.
wastewater there, and this is the thing they would connect into.
Yes, that's right.
Okay. So it does build out, it does two things. It honors our commitment with West Forsyth Little League, and it creates a piece of infrastructure inside the park that would be the collection mechanism for that.
Yes, we stubbed out to get to the park. And really, if you don't know exactly where the roads and the lots and how that's going to look, you kind of don't want to put the sewer in there yet until you know. But it does get it stubbed out to the park property, yes.
Yeah, my suggestion was really purely a communication issue, just so that they know what's going on and they can answer the questions that I'm sure they get at the same time.
Absolutely, yeah. I let the village manager know, and now that we have the line as well, I'll let them know as well. Because this brings it over to that Dillon Industrial Drive area, and they have facilities over there too, so it may benefit them as well. I did want to tie these three presentations together a little bit. I know the site issue in Forsyth County for economic development is something that has been going on a long time. It's why the board directed us to move forward with Tanglewood Business Park, I think back in 2014, 2015, and certainly something we talked about a lot with at the winter work session last year. The state legislature obviously recognized that economic development is a priority here as well, and gave us both the $2.4 million that's going to allow us to move forward here at Tanglewood Business Park, but also the $20 million for that southeast portion. I was also going to highlight, Chris brought up the area plan that was done for that area. Those two options would actually provide sewer to 4 of the 5 areas located in that area plan that were identified for future industrial growth if sewer was brought out there. So it really does open up a number of sites. So if it's the board's pleasure, we would move forward with, on Tanglewood Business Park, working with utilities to do the RFQ and develop the sewer access there, and then also move forward with what we recommended, which was the Wahlberg Area 1, which we could move fairly quickly on. A lot of the pre-engineering was already done, and then as we get more information on the Abbotts Creek alternative to move forward that, certainly get the final estimate for what that would be, and we can communicate that to the legislature as well.
Which really goes to, I think, Commissioner Bessie's question, is it was really done around to the question of, is it a good idea? It was identified in the planning area plan, so somebody thought it was a good enough idea to put it in there. Here's a way to get it done. I guess what we'll need is some direction on how the dollars are there. We're already communicating with OSBM on the money and how and the timing and all that. The state does want to see these projects move forward. They do take a long time to do. It's just the nature of utility projects. And so I guess my question to the board is, what do you need for us to do to affirm, yes, we're going to move forward on these, and what mechanism? The mechanism I thought about being is we do need to bring you a budget ordinance amendment for the $20 million. In that board action, we could put this strategy. Now, the deeper you get into the project, complications, we'll have to be able to be flexible enough as we move forward with it, but that's what I was thinking we would do, would put this strategy in the budget amendment that we bring to you here shortly and say, let's move forward. But if there's something else you need, don't.
Comments or
Dudley,
direction?
I think just a comment I'd make, I think putting the Abbott's, the Wahlberg 1 project, I think is absolutely could be put there. We still have uncertainty about Abbott's 2, and that could be, I don't know whether it's good to try to put both of them in the first budget ordinance or to try to put one completely with a second one to follow. I don't know the answer to that.
Do we have consensus to move forward on option 1?
Okay.
Okay, I think so.
Okay.
One for Wahlberg, correct? And then
Hold off on that.
two. Okay, fair enough. Thanks.
Okay.
It'll be helpful. Thank you.
And I would like to point out that our ARPA funding is what we're using for the Highway 65 project.
Yes, ma'am.
And thank you for making it a priority. Those folks are desperate. We have had 3 presentations, and we have 3 more, so I'm going to suggest we take a 10-minute break. Is that okay?
Yeah, that'd be good.
Thank you. We're ready to proceed. Our next presentation is for Forsyth Tech Community College. Dr. Spriggs, welcome. Thank you all for your patience and allow us to have a break.
Oh, absolutely, and it was wonderful to be here and listen to all the great work and things that are happening around economic and workforce development here. Good morning, commissioners, and Happy New Year. I think this is the first time I've seen you, most of you this year. I do want to start by just saying I do have a contingency of folks with me from Forsyth Tech that I'd like to just briefly introduce. I have with me my Chief of Staff, Paula Dibley. She usually travels with me, so you've seen her before. I also have today Sarah Singleton, who's our Executive Director for Governance and Advancement, and Conrad Walsh, who's our Dean for Public Safety.
Welcome to both of you.
So we will get started. I know that you always like to start with hearing about the capital projects that the county has so graciously funded for us. And I've got some really great news to share and a couple of photos here. With regards to our Strickland renovation project, we are 73% complete. And we're very excited about that because we are probably going to end up about 6 months early on completion. And I've done a lot of construction projects over about 30 years doing this work, and I don't know that I've ever been 6 months early on a construction project. So very excited about that. We are, in fact, going to be moving people into some of the space that is already complete next week on January 16th, and we're thrilled. This is going to allow us to create a true one-stop center for our students. We will not have to move them around the campus when they come to talk to an advisor, to register for classes, to pay for their classes, to talk to financial aid, to get support from our career services. Everything will be in this one location. It looks amazing, and we're just really excited. So very soon, I will be inviting you to come and visit with us and take a look at the new space. Additionally, we are continuing to work on our transportation center project. We do have to go through state construction for all of our construction projects, and it took us a while to get clearance. We did get clearance from them just before the holidays to be able to proceed to bid this project. We have the pre-bid now scheduled for, or was scheduled for January 9th. It completed just a couple days ago, and the bid is scheduled for February 6th. So we are moving forward. This is an expansion project. It will allow us to enhance what we are already doing with our automotive, heavy diesel equipment, and other transportation programs there, but it also allows us to expand those programs that are in very high demand right now. So excited about that. Our Learning Commons project is our newest project from the bond dollars. The design agreement was signed by our Board of Trustees with Smith Sennett, our architect, just last week. We are officially in full design mode now. The pre-construction agreement was also signed with Balfour Beatty, that's our contractor, and we're now planning and starting the demolition and the construction phase. So that is going to be a state-of-the-art building. It is the 21st Century Learning and Resource Center, and so we're very excited about moving forward with that. I also want to mention at my last report, I believe I had mentioned to you a request around being able to re-deed our Bob Green Hall property. Bob Green Hall is our medical sciences, health sciences building on our main campus at Silas Creek Parkway. And it's currently deeded to the county commissioners, but it needs to be deeded to the college if we are going to use state dollars that we have available, capital dollars from the state, to be able to do some renovations. So we have formally requested that. I think the county manager's staff has been working with that, and I believe in early February that will come before you. So just wanted to remind you of that. And we are excited to be able to save you all some money with being able to spend state dollars on that project instead. I also, at our last briefing, the last time I was here to give you a report, one of the commissioners, I believe it was Commissioner Wisenhunt, had asked about some data that I was talking to you about with regards to our career and college promise students. And these are the students who are high school students but are taking college credit. It's a wonderful program. It allows our students to get ahead so that when they graduate from high school, they already have college credit. This is a table that shows you, I think I presented it in aggregate last time, and it included the Stokes County students. And this is just for our Winston-Salem Forsyth County school system. So as you can see, we have a target of 30% by fall of 2025, which is next year, to increase the percentage of local high school graduates who enroll at Forsyth Tech during the same year that they graduate to 30% or higher. In fall of 2016, you can see that we had 15.5% of, that was our starting point. We are now up to 19.6%. We have met the overall target. We're close to the overall target of 30% when we put everything together. But I also wanted to share with you how this is distributed throughout the high schools in Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools. So you can see here we range from 2 students taking advantage of Career and College Promise at Paisley up to 125 who are taking advantage of this at West Forsyth. And I also want to thank the Winston-Salem Forsyth County School System because they have really increased their support with working with us. We have our recruitment advisors in all of the high schools every day working to help more students be able to take advantage of this. They can enroll in pathways that are college transfer pathways. If they don't quite have the GPA that they need to get into a college transfer pathway, they can also enroll in one of our career and technical education pathways. And so that is very, very beneficial.
Could I just say to you, I think we're missing that slide in our packet.
I'm very sorry. We'll make sure that we get it to you. I think we may have added it late and just
Okay.
got it to Ashley.
That's fine, but it's an important slide.
Yes, it is. And can you see it on your screen now?
Oh,
Okay.
yes.
Wonderful. We'll make sure we get that printed copy to you. So again, very excited about being able to continue to expand this work and to continue to get more students involved in this work. In fact, I'll talk to you in just a moment about our Equity Accelerate program, which is part of our Education Design Lab work that is funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and that is related to how we help more students find a pathway forward with CCP. And this is a photo from our most recent line worker graduation. Very excited that we had with us that day Duke Energy's Jimmy Flythe, who is also one of our Board of Trustee members, who was there to give us that big check that you see. I don't think you can see the amount on the check, but it was $35,000 from the Duke Energy Foundation. I believe they just recently invested $350,000 in line worker programs across the state, and we're very pleased that Forsyth Tech got one of the largest investments to help support development of future energy workforce and our amazing line worker program. This was the 62nd class. These students that you see at the top left in that photo had jobs before they showed up for graduation that day. I had one student who told me he was waiting to sign his offer letter because he knew that other folks were going to be there that day and he might get a better offer. And I thought we had trained him well when he said that. So very proud of that program, very grateful to Duke Energy and to all the other utility companies that do help us fund that program. It meets a great need. And these workers will start off making a family sustaining wage with the opportunity, if they do call-out pay for storm situations and things like that, to make 6 figures within the first year of working. And so it's just a wonderful program. And now I have a wonderful story to share with you. This is some updated information on our enrollment. So in fall of 2023, the semester that just ended in December, we were up to 8,716 students. And as you can see from this chart, that is quite high. In 2017, a fall, before COVID, we had 7,756. When COVID hit, we had 7,400 587 that came back that first year of COVID. And as you can see, we are more than 1,000 students now back from COVID, which is just a wonderful problem to have, right? Because this is much higher than what we had last year. We get funded by the state for our instruction in arrears, and so we are working with quite an increase in students, and we don't really get funded for that additional growth until next year. However, thanks to some money that we were able to save from our HERF money, or the federal stimulus dollars, and some support, additional support from the state, we've done a great job of being able to meet the needs for all of those students in the fall. We just started our spring semester last week, or this week, I'm sorry, on Monday. We started our spring semester. We were back last week, but we started school on Monday. And as you can see, we have more students than we had in the fall. This is very unusual. We do not typically have more students in the spring. In fact, typically, you will lose a few students in the spring. So what we are attributing this to is quite a few things. We have really worked hard as part of our Vision 2025 strategic plan to make sure that we are living up to that brand logo, or our tagline that you see on these slides, to be a place of promise for every student. So we have significantly increased our engagement with all of the high schools, with all of our partners. We are in the middle schools. We have launched adult re-engagement programs for adult learners that had stopped out, and we now have them back moving forward. So we've done a lot of internal work. We also thankfully had quite a bit of money from the federal government and from the state government to help provide free 1 year of tuition for the class of 2020, 2021, 22, and 23, 21, 22, and 23. And that has helped tremendously. And then what we are now seeing is that our efforts to keep students in school are also paying off, because we can see them staying with us from fall to spring, and we're not losing those students that we had traditionally lost. This number is actually outdated now. We were over this morning when I looked. So really, really proud of that work, and really excited for what that means for our community right here in Forsyth County and the greater Piedmont Triad region, because these students, over 80% of our students, are going to stay here. They stay at home. It's not like going to university and then going back home. They are going to be a part of our workforce. They are going to help us meet these workforce gaps, and they're really going to be contributors to our society. So very excited to share that information with you. I'll move to my next slide. These are pictures from our EMS program. That's our beautiful branded Forsyth Tech ambulance, and some photos of our students. And I put those here as I share an update with you on our emergency medical services program, the paramedic program. As you all know already, our emergency medical science program is a crucial program that we offer to help us meet local workforce demands within emergency services. About 2 years ago, County Manager Dudley Watts and I met and really talked about how we could work together to strengthen this program. And after that meeting, my Forsyth Tech Emergency Services team and the Forsyth County Emergency Services team did really great work. I'm very proud of the way they came together. They addressed challenges that we were having. They worked on creating incentive programs and incentives for students to try to attract more people into this workforce because of significant workforce gaps. They did some really great work. Our educational program is incredibly strong, and I'm happy to say that our partnership with Forsyth County EMS continues to be very strong. However, last fall, we did learn through an audit about clerical issues that were occurring in the program. We had an audit with North Carolina Office of Emergency Management Services, and unfortunately, I want to provide this to you because I always want to be forthright and I want to be transparent with you. But I want to start by saying, please understand that these issues that I'm going to talk to you about are not issues that have anything to do with the quality of the training or with what the students learned. It's all about documentation and clerical issues. So they were related to poor documentation. It was related to how our director was actually documenting the skills that the students were learning, and they were the responsibility of an individual who was no longer employed by our college. They caused us, unfortunately, to have to temporarily pause the advanced classes. So right now, we are not offering advanced EMS classes because of the documentation issues. So we found out that we had these issues. We immediately reached out to Forsyth County and Stokes County, our major partners in EMS, and we've been working with them to rectify the situation. Our immediate actions and what we have done so far is we worked hand in hand with NCOMS, and we're continuing to do that, updating them regularly. We have completed more than 20% of the missing documentation. We did that in about 6 days. So you can see that it's not really a huge, mammoth, time-consuming problem. We were able to do about 20% in 6 days because it is just documentation. And we have until May 29th to complete the rest of it. However, we have worked on a plan that will allow us to complete it by the end of February. And that is thanks to really a lot of hard work with my team and with Forsyth County EMS to be able to do that so that we can offer the advanced class in the spring as we had planned and not have to wait until after May to do that. Again, we partnered with Forsyth County Emergency Services to be able to identify one of their captains to help us serve as the interim program director for this, and we're very grateful for that. And because we have such strong relationships in our system with the other community colleges, we've been able to partner with 2 of our sister community colleges to make sure that for students who really need it to do something in January and February, which are the only 2 months that if we're able to complete this by the end of February, we will not be allowed to offer the class. They are able to offer the class to those students, so they will not be impacted. So basically, NCOMS has restrictions on the number of people that can input into the system for documentation. And that really had provided or had created an issue with how we're able to audit this. Thanks to, again, a lot of hard work from my team, they've now figured out how to create an audit process that basically works around those NCOEMS restrictions and allows us to do quarterly internal audits to ensure that this doesn't happen again. So just to reiterate a couple of things. First of all, NCOMS did not find any issue with the quality of the training or the training that was provided. So the educational programming is totally fine, and our temporary pause is simply the result of the missing paperwork. I do want to take a moment, though, just to really thank Joey Hunley, who's, of course, Forsyth County's EMS director, and Captain Michael Belcher, who is our interim program or director for this, for all of their help. They have worked so hard with my team to make sure that we are looking at all of these graduates and helping them not have any issues. In other words, not have to come back to the college and take any additional classes. NCOEMS has allowed us to be able to simply have the agencies sign a letter saying that the workers have the skills, and that way they don't have to come back and take any additional classes, which is wonderful. And that is because it was documentation and not a concern about the programming or the skills. I want to make sure that I have not left out anything that's important. I do want to just close by saying, in my humble opinion, and I'm not a bit biased here, we have the best community college in the country. And one of the things that our state is so fortunate to have is funding from the state to be able to allow community colleges to provide emergency services training for our 100 counties. That is not the case in many states. And what that really does is allow the EMS departments to focus on their core mission of saving lives and allow the community college to be their partner in providing the training. So I'm just stressing with that comment the importance of having those strong relationships. When you have a situation like this come up, you are in a much better place when you've already taken the time to build those strong relationships. So grateful again to the county and to the EMS Services Division for being our partner in this and helping us to correct this as quickly as possible. I'll move on, and I will get to a point for questions if you have any additional questions about that. My next slide talks about what I mentioned earlier, and that is our Education Design Lab work and our Equity Accelerate community program. This is a community convening, and I think we've had several of the commissioners have been a part of these meetings in the past. This project is focused on bringing basically an equity lens to the Career and College Promise program, and again, making sure that every student, regardless of their socioeconomic status, whether they're low income or not, regardless of their race and ethnicity, regardless of any barrier that they may have, that they have access to the Career and College Promise programming. We had a $75,000 grant to do this work. It's an 18-month program, and it is designed so that at the end of this program, we will have created an opportunity for students to get an entire year of programming with college credit so that when they graduate, they will have 1 year left to get an associate's degree. In fact, one of those programs that we're working on to be able to offer to our students is EMS, and so we're excited about that opportunity. But many other programs as well. We're working towards a program for aviation and for some of our other critical workforce programs. And I think I have one more slide. I do. I hope that you have all already received in your mailboxes our annual report to the community. We have lots of copies with us today if you haven't seen this yet. It is a wonderful story in pictures and in words of all of the great work of the Forsyth Tech Trailblazers over the past academic year. Last year's annual report, which I also brought with me today, is an award-winning report now. We were pleased to be one of only 2 community colleges to receive an award alongside those other universities, like the fabulous NC State University and the other 2 that are in Durham and Chapel Hill. We were one of only 2 community colleges alongside them to receive this district award. And so very, very proud of not only the work to create that report, but everything that's inside this report. And I hope you have a chance to take a look at that. And then as I switch to my last slide, which is just simply to ask for questions, I also want to say thank you. Thank you for approving the salary increases for our county-funded employees to allow us to make sure that they got the same salary increase that the state employees got. We really appreciate that. That makes a huge difference, and they feel valued and important, and they are, and we really appreciate your support. And with that, I will ask for questions.
Did you go to North Carolina State?
I took math and tennis one summer at North Carolina State. I didn't graduate from there.
I kind of picked that up when you said North Carolina State
They're my
and
favorite.
quote the other 2.
I'm sorry, they are my favorite.
That kind of jumped out at me. A Tar Heel stepped on my foot. So, could you do me a favor? I was, and I apologize for not paying strict attention, but you mentioned Bob Green.
Yes.
And a building that was named for him, and probably more than one building at Forsyth Tech.
Mm-hmm.
What did that involve?
So basically, that is currently, that is one building on our campus that is not deeded to the Board of Trustees. It is still deeded to the county. Most of the other, all the other buildings, if I'm not mistaken, are deeded, as is typical, to the Board of Trustees. That building needs some renovations, and we have some state dollars that we would like to use to cover some of those renovations. We don't usually get state dollars for capital projects, but they did give us, our share was about $14.5 million to be used over 4 years. And so we want to use some of that, but when we checked with them, they said the building is not yours and you're not going to be able to use the state dollars.
Shame, shame, shame.
So we assured them the building was in fact ours. We use it every day, but we have to have the deed in the trustee's name in order to be able to apply that funding towards the building. Does that help, Mr.?
Just the name Bob Green enough,
Yeah.
From my perspective anyway, stands for whatever money is needed, that's what you ought to get. Do you have any idea what the figure is?
Well, we have the money from the state
Good, okay.
available. We just need the deed changed in order to be able to use it for that. But, yes,
Okay, thank you.
And he was a wonderful president and was there for quite a while, so thank you.
Are there other questions or comments? Mr. Bessie?
First, the Bob Green building, does that front Oak Grove Road, or does it actually, is it over on the South Creek side?
No, it's on the Oak Grove side. Yeah, well, yes. It sits in the middle of Oak Grove and then between that and the Strickland building.
Thanks. A couple of questions about the EMS
Yes.
program. And forgive me, this started well before my tenure on the commission. So when you said advanced EMS, are you referring exclusively to the paramedic classes? Or, all right, so the regular EMT and the advanced EMT would be in a separate category?
I'm going to make sure that I answer this correctly. Is advanced EMT included in that, Conrad?
It is.
Okay.
So we are currently running all the EMT classes, so it's anything that's in the advanced side.
All right, so advanced EMT or paramedic
Paramedic.
is suspended for the pause, okay.
It's not suspended. It was only put on pause.
Sorry,
That's okay.
wrong
I'm just
technical
making-
term. How long just from my understanding of the pipeline itself, how long do the training classes for advanced EMT and for paramedics respectively normally take?
The paramedic program is a 2-year program, and they take, and I do want to say, and I'll invite Conrad to join me. You may as well come up, Conrad, because I want to make sure I don't answer these technical questions incorrectly. But the 2-year program, they can't take the EMT class, so we do have some students that haven't had to stop. They're taking gen ed classes right now, which are, the English and maths that are required for the 2-year degree. They just can't take the advanced paramedic class until the pause is over. But I'll let Conrad answer more specifically the time frame for the other classes.
Yes.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. And advanced EMT is normally run in a continuing education component. It's not in a curriculum component. And so that can be 6 months to a year. It just depends on how long you want to run that. Since it's in Con Ed, it just really depends on the program itself.
Would it depend on the student's time availability, or is that primarily class availability?
It's typically just built off of whatever the availability is. Most of the time for advanced EMT, we're usually running that for an agency versus just standard. Like if somebody comes to us and say, can you run us an advanced EMT piece? There's not many. Advanced EMT is still kind of in its infancy as far as where it's used, for lack of better words. So that's why the vast majority of our classes that we run are EMT, because we have well over 100 plus students a year that go through the EMT. Advanced EMT is a much smaller piece, so we don't typically run that just to an open crowd. It's typically run when an agency comes to us.
So you're not running a certificate program for paramedics now?
We are not. So we explored that at one point, and we just did not have enough appetite from enough agencies. And mainly part of that is because we are moving into COAMPS accreditation, which we're a part of that. And COAMPS accreditation, which only affects ALS classes, we're focused on that paramedic piece, which falls under that. So if an agency came to us and said, can you run just a standalone continuing education paramedic? We would explore that piece there. But typically it's most fall into the 2-year degree program. The state of North Carolina has been working on this for many years, that they are looking to make a change legislatively for paramedics. And that part of that legislation, if it gets passed, would require paramedics to actually have a degree. So a lot of colleges are not doing a lot with that continuing education piece, because if it gets passed, those students are still going to be able to have to go get gen eds and so forth to finish up a degree. So our commitment to excellence, we're trying not to divide and conquer everything. We're trying to make sure that we have what we have for the best program, which is working on EMT, AEMT as needed, and then the paramedic degree program.
Okay. So
let me just apologize for interrupting. That sole issue he just said is at the heart of the paramedic issues we have in terms of just availability. That state of North Carolina in the Emergency Medical Services Advisory Group over the last number of years has really been heading in this direction, and it has and does impact how people look at a paramedic level, the paramedic job, and because frankly, you get so close to an LPN, it's sort of merged if you're going to go get a degree program, do you go ahead and go into nursing? Because there was a fairly big differential. So they made it more difficult to get that paramedic level work job, and that's impacted everything. And so when you hear criticism from perhaps folks who've been involved in the emergency services system, and there's a lot of criticism out there about why our system is not a predominant paramedic. We don't have as many paramedics on staff that if you call an ambulance, you're likely to get an EMT, maybe an advanced EMT, and maybe a paramedic. But that's real criticism, and it's really part of how this has changed statewide. We're going to talk a little bit more about it at the winter work session, because it was one of those things that until it became crystal clear what was happening on the community college side, what was happening with the OEMS, and what was happening with potential state legislation, we really didn't know why we were in the place we were in. And I'm not, maybe it's good public policy. It's been a change that's been very difficult on our system. That, combined with scope of practice changes that have allowed paramedics to go into hospital settings and some other things, has really put our system in crisis.
Well, thanks. That's useful to know. But separately still, just for my framework of understanding of how long things take. Paramedic is an associate degree program exclusively for SciTech, and that's 2 years. You offer regular EMT classes on a continuing education basis, and that typically takes 6 months to a year or less?
It depends. So we run a fast track, so you can actually get your EMT in about 2 months. That is not a normal path. That is a Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. We call it fast track.
Right.
But typically EMT class is about 4 to 6 months, evenings and weekends.
Right. And those are general open enrollment classes. The advanced EMT you only offer on a partner agency basis.
Not that we would run one open. We've just not had enough interest from the outside area because it is such a specialized certificate.
Mm-hmm.
Most that take EMT are usually working in a volunteer fire department. They're working in those kind of areas. They don't operate with an AEMT background, if that makes sense. It just depends on what the agency needs. So typically we usually just run it when an agency comes to us, again, just simply because it's not a very common certificate at this time.
Okay, so just for my use of correct terminology, if I'm talking about an EMT, talking about a certificate. If I'm talking about advanced EMT, I'm talking about a certificate. If I'm talking about a paramedic for the program for SciTech, we're talking about an associate degree.
That's right.
All right, thank you.
If I could just
Other
add,
question?
I was just going to add one thing, and I think I need to say this really out of respect for our own staff. We've got some reputational damage that has occurred that we're going to have to overcome.
Absolutely.
And it's serious because, that's a community of people who work in that environment. And when you think about the commitment you made in the education you received, and then there be issues with whether they're clerical or whatever, it's very problematic. And so reputationally, we've got some work to do.
Absolutely. And we're committed to doing that and are working that right now.
Commissioner Woodbury.
Thank you, Vice Chair Wisenhunt. And so I was talking to a student in the, I think it was Orange County, and they are in college, pre-med bio. And so they have decided to enroll in the paramedics track at the Orange, whatever the technical.
Durham Tech, I think.
Durham
it
Tech,
says.
exactly. To help them to be a stronger candidate for medical school. And so they anticipate working a year or two as EMS before they get into the medical school. And I said, well, that's an interesting track to try to pull from to get more, at least young people, and just in general, just fulfilling the need of we need EMS workers. So I don't know if there's been any kind of enlightenment in our area around trying to see if there are students, undergraduate, that's in that medical track and would be interested in doing that.
We haven't done, to my knowledge, any looking at students who are thinking of pre-med. I do know that it is common throughout the state for students to do exactly what you're describing. What I've heard in the past, I've not heard of pre-med, but I've heard of the students interested in becoming physician's assistants, going that route to take the paramedic program and to stay in the program and work for a year or two and then become a physician's assistant. I haven't heard about it for pre-med. I think it's something that we've looked at other students who are in our waiting list to get into health sciences programs, because we have a lot more students trying to get into nursing and other health sciences programs than we have capacity for, and that's one of our selective programs. And so we have reached into that pool and recruited heavily and provided incentives for students to go into paramedic. But that's something very interesting to think about and try to figure out how to connect with.
I would say, lastly, I think that from my understanding, maybe the biology department or whatever sort of reached out to this student and others to just prick their interest around, would you be interested? And that's how they found out. And they're getting I think the education through Durham Tech for free. So they was just like, because,
It's free.
Yeah,
That's
it's
a wonderful
free,
benefit. Plus, it also does help the pipeline for at least that period of time and prepares them. So that's wonderful. Thank you for sharing. We'll take a look at that.
Thank you so much for being here today and your team. We appreciate the update.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Partners Health Management, Jackie Copeland.
You used my favorite four-letter word, free.
Good morning, Jackie.
Good morning, Commissioners. If I haven't said yet, Happy New Year to you all.
You were thinking something else, right?
Okay. Again, Happy New Year. If I haven't had the opportunity to wish you Happy New Year. Again, Jackie Copeland, glad to be here. Thank you for your time. I also see the time, and so I'll be expeditious about getting through this. I first want to give you an update of how Partners is doing supporting Forsyth County and the members and families reside here. Want to always start looking at what our service to our members, to our provider network. Continue to serve more people coming into our system. Almost 11,000 Medicaid members have been served thus far. We also have over 2,600 state-funded recipients. Again, those are folks who are uninsured but may qualify for a state funding position. We've reached out and served them. And this is looking at for the first quarter of this fiscal year. Our fiscal year runs July 1st to June 30th. Also, our penetration rate, that's just our number looking at how we're getting people more into services for the first time. That continues to go up, as you see, gradual, but continue to increase. Again, I know last time you all wanted me to be clear about that number I've got before you, 26.2% is for Forsyth County specifically. And then I want to give you a picture or two of how we're doing as a LME MCO compared to our peers across the state. The state has various metrics that they grade us on across the board, and one of the things we're really proud of is the work that we are, we're first among LME MCOs with the follow-up in 7 days after inpatient care. People are, as you can imagine, they've been stabilized in an inpatient facility, and it's very imperative that they get into some community-based follow-up services. So we're proud of the fact that we kind of led the pack, if you will. That figure looks at across all 14 counties on our catchment area. The state does not break that down presently on a county basis for whatever reason. Again, looking at members served, I've shared with you kind of the next steps with our members for those, and this goes beyond just beyond members coming out being patient, but folks who identify mental health need and want to get into services. Looking at our initiation rate and our engagement rate. These are both rates that are kind of industry standards that we are required to do on a state level, and we strive to get people in because we know this helps them attain recovery a lot faster and get their needs met. As far as initiation, that's getting someone to have 2 or more services in the first 14 days. Since my last report to you on the third quarter, with case stayed kind of static. We stayed in that 21% points. For mental health. For folks with substance abuse issues, we're trending upward, as you can see there. We're continuing to see positive, as you know, the various needs we have with the opioid epidemic and other substance abuse. We want to make sure we're able to, when a person is ready to change and motivated to change, we're able to get them into services. Next, looking at engagement, and that takes the next level, 2 or more services within the first 30 days after initiation. Really working on doing that and looking at increases on that. And you can see that we're trending for both mental health and substance use. We're trending up in both of those categories also. And next, I thought I'd highlight for you one of the groups that that basically is far the largest amount of folks funding goes to, and that's for the folks who are served innovations waiver. They're part of individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. We presently have over 500 members that are receiving the innovations waiver, and they're in our care management. As you can imagine, these folks need a significant amount of assistance, so we work with them and their families to make sure that they're getting the needs that they have met. Also, I reported last time that I think I did, but if I didn't, our 2022 waiver allocation slots were all filled. The state gave us 30-odd slots last fiscal year, and we were able to fill all of those. And we've also picked up additional state-funded, I think 350 slots, additional slots across the state of North Carolina. Forsyth County share was 12 of those based off the algorithm the state has. And presently, we've already got 7 of those filled. We just received this monies, I think, in late October. So we're well on the way of getting all those folks as soon as possible filled. We ran into a delay because of the holidays, obviously. Contacting members, making sure they're still available, then helping them if they need any updated information submitted, and then get them into the process. Next, these individuals, we have 815 that are presently also on our registry of unmet needs. These are folks who are qualified, meet the qualification for an innovation slot. They just await funding for a slot from the state. And so what we've been really focused on, that number, is trying to encourage more people to take advantage of other services if they have Medicaid or state-funded dollars they could tap into. So we've got about 258 of those who are receiving other services. Another tidbit here is going to be a great help with the Medicaid transformation. We're also going to open up another opportunity for some of those folks on the waiting list will qualify for some of the services that are presently on the innovation waivers gets. As I think I mentioned before, there's also the innovations waiver also provides a bit of money each year, I think $135,000 a year, to cover all the various costs that may be needed, other medical costs and what have you. The new slot, a new program that we call the 1915 Innovations, or in the 1915I program, they'll have some of the services that are on the innovation waiver. It just won't come with the funds until they get a qualifying slot. And I think this is fine. Finally, I just want to talk about some of our work with the community, working with various places and partners in the community. Won't talk all, I'll highlight a few here. First off, thank you again for your funding, some of your dollars in the Behavioral Health Department on mental health first aid. We're in the process of training. We've already trained this fiscal year 142. Had a training yesterday, matter of fact, downstairs. So we're continuing to train more people on mental health first aid and become mental health first aiders. Next, we also have our question, persuade, and refer training, a suicide prevention training model. As you know, a lot of the activities that are going on with the Forsyth Focus initiatives that we're glad to be a part of, along with, again, Forsyth County Behavioral Health, Winston Forsyth County Schools, Mental Health Association of Forsyth County, and others. QPR provides a good training that the folks can have, a smaller dose than the mental health first aid, to kind of help people if they see someone going through a mental health crisis, to be able to get them to a mental health professional. So we've trained 111 in that. And another event that probably Denise Price has shared with you is our work with the community conversations about suicide. We're excited. We had our second event back on September 24th at Carver High School. Great attendance. We had a lot of folks come out. Again, Winston Forsyth County Schools, the superintendent, she had some of her assistant superintendents there. And we had the sheriff was also attended. And we had a lot of other community leaders attend and kind of have a discussion of how suicide, how mental health has affected their lives. And our goal is this will help reduce stigma and also begin to have people reach out for services that they need. Because in the room, we had various mental health providers, other community providers, even had access to resources they could take with them. And then we also offered them slots in our upcoming question, persuade, and refer QPR training. So we're really excited about that, and we're still going. Just a public service announcement that we'll have our next one in Clemens at the Clemens Branch Library on January 30th this month, 5:45. You'll soon be seeing more the press release for that and some other flyer information and sign up for that. So we're hoping to, again, take this throughout our county. And so we're looking forward to that one coming up later on this month. And finally, one of the things we have done is interacted with various communities within Forsyth County. And one population is we've been meeting with the North Carolina Congress of Latinos. They came to us and shared with some concerns that they were facing for their especially it's comprised of about 6 to 7 pastors and other lay ministers, and they talked about the concerns they're seeing in their community. So one recommendation they had is just the needs related to trauma that their community faces is a little bit different than others, and they want to make sure that providers are aware of that so they can better serve them. So we had last month, we had a Latinx trauma-informed care webinar for our provider network. Had a great turnout for that. And really, we have one of our staff members who is from Argentina and a clinician herself. And so she could share her story and just give a very good picture to those who may not understand what that community has dealt with, especially related to trauma and the trauma pieces of it. So it was very good, and it also spoke to other immigrant populations, what they face when they come to the United States and some of the things they live with on a daily basis. So we're excited about that, and we look to continue to provide more and more type of special population work and educate our provider network so that we can serve all of our Forsyth County. And that concludes my presentation today. Happy to try to answer any questions that you may have.
Questions? Comments?
Great. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jackie. We appreciate your information and everything you're doing for our community. Thank you. Next, we have Experiment in Self-Reliance, Fred Bazemore and Melinda Hash. Good morning.
Good morning, and Happy New Year to each and every one. Wanted to give a quick update, but more important, a thank you today on behalf of our directors, board of directors. Again, I am Fred Bazemore, the interim director at Experiment Self-Reliance. I just want to briefly read this letter that each and every one of you will, in fact, receive. Dear Forsyth County Commissioners, thank you for allowing us to provide information on our agency, our programs, and our impact and services on residents here in Forsyth County. We're very grateful for your continued support. Experiment Self-Reliance has had the opportunity of serving Forsyth County for over 55 years with our consistent motto in replacing and meeting the needs of the community. Today, we have 3 core programs: the Self-Sufficiency Program, the Individual Development Account, which is the first-time homeownership, and our Forsyth Free Tax Program. Each one serves a different purpose, but collectively, they provide individuals and families of Forsyth County the opportunity for a hand up out of poverty. The Self-Sufficiency Program provides opportunity and for participants to create their own blueprints for achieving self-sufficiency by improving their income and continuing education. The average daily income for participants coming into this program is $11,510 at enrollment, compared to $29,668 by the time they exit the program. The Individual Development Account program aids in first-time home buyers. I will personally, at this point in time, like to thank Mr. Kyle Haney and his entire department for their continued support. This is an asset-building program, as you all know what it does and the importance and significance of it here in Forsyth County. To year to date, in 23 years, the program that has been supported by this county and this board, we have had over 600 individuals who have graduated from renters to homeowners. And clearly right now, the average home around in Forsyth County that they're purchasing is between $126,000 to $150,000. Also, you all help support our free tax program for the low to moderate income individuals in our county. Last fiscal year, we were able to file over 3,000 tax returns and put over with combination of IDA and the tax program, put over $2.9 million back into the community by free tax preparation and by individuals buying homes. As you've heard through this brief presentation, a small portion of the work in Forsyth County, none of this would be possible without the help of the county. We want to thank you again for your continued support. We also welcome the opportunity to further discuss these topics at your convenience, in addition to questions that you feel need further information. Again, as you all know, this organization, earlier this year, last year, we did have challenges moving forward into this fiscal year. The most important with all of our funders, one of the first funders that I did, in fact, meet with was Mr. Kyle Haney. Also United Way, the city, and the state, the Office of Economic Opportunity. What I'm here to tell you today is that this organization is financially stable. That was more critically important in providing the services to the low-income residents here. We envision expanding. We have done a small pivot. We did provide services to the homeless. The challenges there were finding homes or affordable units for the homeless. That particular program was really affecting our bottom line and our budget. Our board of directors did, in fact, move to pivot, not move away from serving the homeless, but at the time to focus our attention right now on our financially secure programs, our programs that can, in fact, uplift the low-income working. All of our participants who come through ESR do have to have some form of earned income. So this is not as though we're taking any monies and just giving it out to the general public. But we are still committed to serving. That's part of our mission in serving the homeless, helping them with services. They can, in fact, still enroll in other services, i.e. our self-sufficiency department. But more important, I want to let this board of commissioners know that we first and foremost thank you for the support that you have given us over the years. Thank you for your support for this first-time homeownership program. There is, in fact, clearly a need. It's not a want. We have a waiting list right now. Mr. Haney and I meet regularly once a month. We just had a meeting yesterday. Kyle met with my staff, but clearly the importance of this program in serving and helping folk who are first-time homeowners. I think, Ms. McDaniel, you can attest to what we do, how we do it, the model, how it's shaped, and the direction and what we want to continuously do. I think we all in this room understand the challenges regarding first-time homeownership and being able to find affordable houses that developers and contractors are building. But we're committed at ESR to continue that path for those who desire to go from renters to homeowners. We were guilty of it years ago until we bought this building. We were renting, but we preached home ownership, but we were renting ourselves. So we were kind of being hypocritical at the same time, but now we want to practice what we preach. We're moving into a new facility with the help that you all have, but still garnering that support from this board and this county commission that can't thank you enough for all that you do. But at this time, I will entertain any questions that you may have.
Are there questions?
I do have one.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. And I'm sorry, could you repeat your name?
First name is Fred, last name Bazemore, Bazemore.
Thank you, Mr. Bazemore. I appreciate your information. What is the current number on the wait list?
For which program? All programs or just IDA?
I guess the applicants are waiting for affordable housing to get a home.
That particular program, that's our IDA first-time homeownership. Now, we have over 70 on the waiting list now. We scale back. This is in conjunction with speaking with Mr. Haney while we collaborate and talk about, do we still want to keep those doors up? We have scaled it back. When I say scale back, meaning there's an application fee. What we don't want to do is take your money and then we can't provide the services and provide the classes. So scale back meaning we are evaluating right now where and how, if we do in fact start the next, they're called waves. In the next wave, right now we have 45 in a wave. And the next wave will be 46. And that consists of a class. And class means taking your application, reviewing your credit reports, first and foremost, but identifying your income to make sure you're eligible for the program. But still, we don't want to enroll these participants in the program and not be able to provide the service or presenting false an opportunity to buy a home. So we're looking at that particular area. We're still committed. We are providing services to those who are in fact right now enrolled into the program.
How much is the application?
I think the application fee is $45.
So I only assumed that there was only one program around trying to get renters into their first home, but you're saying that there are additional programs with people on the wait list.
Yes. The thing about the IDA program and our self-sufficiency program, you can be dual enrolled in both. Our traditional self-sufficiency program, we do get the money from the Office of Economic Opportunity. That particular budget we can spend upwards of $2,000 per participant. What I mean by that is that in all of our programs at ESR, you're going to get a heavy dose of financial literacy. We are measured primarily on raising your income, getting you out of poverty based on the income poverty guideline. With that being said, and a participant who comes into the IDA program can also be enrolled in the self-sufficiency program. What you're gaining is you get a very, very intense, heavy dose of financial literacy from the IDA while you're enrolled in there, and you're also going to get a heavy dose of financial literacy from the self-sufficiency program. All of this includes extremely intensive budgeting. We do look at your money. We do look at the money for the IDA participants. We have an access only to view. I want to make that clear to the general public. When you sign up for this program, you give us authority to view your account, not make any changes to it, but we have an opportunity to make sure you are making your regular deposits monthly. Now, it is your money. You can go in and take it out at any given time, but part of your case management is to make sure that those monies stay in, so at the time you successfully complete the curriculum, you're ready to go towards, that money goes towards your closure and match money.
Is there a requirement if you're in the IDA program to also be in self-sufficiency?
No, it is not.
It's a choice.
No, we recommend it because what we don't want participants in IDA to fall on a rainy day. When I mean a rainy day, meaning while you're enrolled in the IDA department, the transmission goes out in your car, I can fund that or pay for that through my self-sufficiency program. I still want you to make your regular deposits towards your home. If for whatever reason you fall behind while you're a renter, while you're working towards home ownership in the IDA program, we can help you with your rent. As long as you're still gainfully employed and we can verify that, and you enrolled in the IDA department and you're making your regular deposits into the IDA department, then yes, we can help you. Any area to help that individual to remain self-sufficient while they're working towards home ownership, we don't want any barriers or anything to prevent you to say, hey, Fred, or hey, Mr. Haney, I want to take that money out of my escrow account. So we do everything possible to make sure that those families remain sustainable, stable, and without any excuse to take that money out their account.
Thank you.
Okay. Other questions?
The only question that I have for you, Fred, is what are you doing in terms of, it sounds like you have a waiting list so people know, but what type of advertisement is happening? Because Commissioner Woodbury had a lot of great questions, and I just wanted the general public to know exactly what kind of work you're doing.
Well, the first is word of mouth, as any way, as with anything that's successful, is the word of mouth. Now, we do advertising on our webpage. We do have flyers. Of course, Kyle, they promote it within their department as well. But more important is, and I would love to play a video, but what we do, I would love to invite each and every one of you commissioners to our next graduation. But we do a formal graduation. I don't know if you received your actual annual report yet, but if you have not, but clearly the county, Forsyth County, has been very instrumental in support of the graduations. And when I say it's just not passing out a certificate, we make it a huge event. Those individuals who successfully are graduates, my words can't express. You can only view it and see it for yourself what that means. But clearly, Mr. Haney can attest to these graduates, Kyle speaking to our graduates. But clearly, it's word of mouth. A lot of it, of course, in the nonprofit arena, if you look at that line item, it's not a whole lot for advertising. But still, we do our very best to advertise through our website, through brochures, flyers, collaborative partners who know about the IDA program to promote it and to get the support from others who are in the community. But clearly, each participant who comes through the program, they're able to tell another, and they tell another, and tell another. So we get calls daily about coming into the program. Of course, bid it on the website. Folk have the opportunity to complete their application there and submit it back. But clearly, yes, we would love to enroll each and every participant who comes through this particular program. I have an interest in becoming a homeowner versus a renter.
Yeah, I'm thinking through how we can partner in terms of the advertisement piece. So maybe you can send the video and Ed could upload
Absolutely,
it.
absolutely. I would love for each and every one of the commissioners to see it. Yeah. And as well, additional data that supports it, but clearly, you will receive a formal invitation, and I would love for each and every one to put it on your calendar to come out.
Thanks, Fred.
Yes.
Thanks for all you do. Tell
Thank
Fiona
you.
we said hello.
Yes, thank you.
So much.
Thank you.
It appears to me with the waiting list you have, folks know about your program.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
And the notes that you used today, could you or Kyle share those with us, those facts and numbers?
Yeah, actually, you all will in fact receive a lot come out of this book here, but what I read to you today was the official letter that each and every one received, thanking you on our letterhead. So yes, ma'am, that you will in fact receive that.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
being here today.
Thank you.
That completes our morning session. Does anyone have any comments or questions? If not, we will adjourn until 2 o'clock. Thank you.